Boy, Crypto Blood, welcome to another Kickin' It session. Today I've got Malcom, our crypto trader, FX trader too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I was at one point.
Yeah, so we're gonna be talking about crypto today, guys. A little bit of FX as well, as you guys see on the screen. The theme of this one today is helicopter money for all. You know, that kind of plays into crypto and how maybe you can take advantage of crypto in this new, I think, normal that we have here in the United States and in the world. So, Mr. Malcom, how are you today? And thank you for joining another Kickin' It session.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I mean, I'm probably doing better than most people when it comes to this virus. I mean, you've got this quarantine going on. People are out of work. People don't know what to do with themselves. But like, you know, if you're a computer scientist or you're a trader, especially if you're a crypto trader, I mean, it's almost life as normal, you know?
It is. I kind of feel bad for those who have to, you know, especially the ones that rely on kind of jobs that you have to be there, right? Physical jobs.
Sure. Yeah, you build something. You can't do that from home.
Exactly. All the frontliners, all the medical staff, doctors, nurses, PA assistants, all those, you know, those are frontliners, man. They're taking it pretty hard right now. So
for sure.
Shout out to them for sure. So why this song today, Malcom? Wizard of Meth by Pogo. Never heard of this artist. Tell me a little bit about him.
No, I love Pogo. You know, it's he does these remixes where he puts together, you know, old movies, old TV shows and stuff. It's stuff you wouldn't expect to really be able to make music out of, but he makes it work. And if you watch he makes his own little music videos for him too, and he puts a lot of work into it. Just a really cool artist, kind of lesser known. I've always had a lot of respect for him. So.
Nice.
Also, it's kind of like we're seeing the man behind the curtain a little bit lately with this quarantine thing, you know. So it's I think it's a little topical. Wizard of Meh, like Wizard of Oz, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna definitely check this one out. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. First time guest. How did you get into FX, and more importantly, I'm more curious about how did you get into crypto?
Yeah, okay, that's easy. I mean, basically I'm a computer guy. I was always like a gamer and a computer nerd type guy. I got a master's degree in computer science, and then I decided after working for the FBI for a little while, working in a cubicle sucks. So I found ways to make money online. I wrote a fantasy novel. I started trading crypto way back in like 2013. Unfortunately, I did not get in early enough that. You know, I'm not one of those billionaire crypto guys. Wouldn't that be nice? But I did get into it relatively early.
Oh, we got a lot to talk about then, Malcom, because I got into crypto in 2013. So,
oh, really? Okay.
This is a pleasant surprise for me because we have a lot. I love talking to people who've been in. I consider you an OG. Been in this game for a while, so you've seen the evolution of crypto. You've seen the evolution of the community. Right, so
for sure.
We can talk about that. I want to let you finish your story, though, your background for the audience.
Yeah, we can talk about Mt. Gox, maybe living through that.
Of course,
but yeah, but yeah, I mean, all my friends and even my computer science friends thought I was insane. You know, the fact that I invested in crypto relatively early, and it wasn't even that early as a thing because it was when Coinbase existed, and that didn't exist at the beginning. Was when I bought a lot of my crypto.
Yep.
Yeah, But anyway, yeah, I mean, I basically my whole life as an adult, I've been looking for ways to sort of make money and support myself non-traditionally because it's like I'm one of those people. I don't like to, you know, I love to work, but I don't like to wake up at the same time every day and go sit in a cubicle around people who are basically there to collect a check. You know, like I want to build things. So yeah, I mean, I write books. I have a stream that I run on Twitch sometimes. I'm working on a video game, actually. That's built the whole engine myself and everything. It's pretty pretty fun. I mean, I'm just doing a little this and that from scratch. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh wow, that's got to be pretty difficult. Why not using something not use something like Unreal or one of those popular 3D engines?
Yeah, I could have done that, and I did consider it. And honestly, if I make another game after this, I may use something an engine, probably Godot or something. But I want, for one, I wanted the challenge, and for two, I wanted to have sort of full control from the beginning, so I could understand from the ground up exactly how everything works. And I mean, for sure, I would have been able to get this thing together faster, probably, if I had used something like Unity. But it's kind of a more interesting experience this way. And also, I'm doing my best to build it in it's called, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to use like terms like computer science terms too much, but I'm trying to make it as modular as possible. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to make it as like, I want to make it an engine that maybe I will open source it later and other people can use it to make their own games.
Okay.
Yeah. It's, believe it or not, it's in Java.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I have a computer science background as well. So we've got a lot to talk about, man.
Cool.
I think I want to first. I heard you say FBI. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What FBI? What were you doing? If you can tell us anything, because listen, my audience is tinfoil hat. You know, we're kind of on the woo-woo side of things when it comes to the government and stuff. What was your experience working for the FBI?
Well, I mean, I can't talk about the specifics of what I did. Obviously, I did have a secret clearance. It was, I mean, I wasn't like a secret agent or something. It was the lowest level secret clearance you can have. So it's like, I don't, you know,
so
I obviously,
you weren't an Edward Snowden. Okay.
No. And yeah. And like I said, like there's some stuff I couldn't really talk about. I could talk about, you know, the incompetence that I saw there. It's one of the reasons
sure.
I mean, it was a real watershed event in my life to work there, because it made me want to never work at a place like that again. I mean, it's just like picture bureaucracy just like to the 20th degree.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there were people there who clearly had no business working in computer science. You know, there were people there who it was clear that they got the job because they knew somebody. You know, I mean,
isn't
it's
a
funny.
lot of that in government? It seems like that would be the case. Okay, yeah.
Well, I have a friend, I have a computer science friend who went on to, I worked as a contractor. You know, I didn't work directly for the FBI, but I did work with people who did work directly for the FBI. Well, my friend went on to work directly for the FBI, and the stuff that he said to me about that, you know, over the years, it was honestly infuriating, because there were times when he was like furloughed, for example, where he would, you know, there were times when he was in the office just being paid to sit around, you know, and I'm like, who's paying you? Oh, right, that's me. I'm the guy who's paying you. That's me and you.
Exactly.
You know, and he would talk about it with no shame.
When you're using other people's money, you tend to be kind of reckless with it, right? If it's not your own money. You know,
well, check this out. It's funny you say that. Here's the punishment for if you're a contractor and you're working for the FBI or some other government agency, and you mess up your contract, you take too long, and it's not done. Here's the punishment: you get more money in 6 more months to finish the job. That's the punishment. So it's like you wonder where all the tax money's going. It's these incompetent people who, and I got to tell you, like when I was working for this company. I had the distinct impression that we were being encouraged not to get not to get work done specifically. You know what I mean?
Because the person that employed
the deadline.
Absolutely, because the person that hired you for the agency, for the FBI, gets paid probably double or at least 50% an hour more than you're being billed.
Yeah.
Right. That's typically how it goes. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So tell us.
I think in my entire time there, I was the only guy who actually delivered any usable code. It was a team of like 6 people or something like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, tell us about the FX side. What intrigued you? I mean, that's probably going a step before the crypto thing, and we'll get back to the crypto side of things. But FX, tell us a little bit about that and your experience with that whole industry.
Well, I mean, actually, I got into, believe it or not, outside of some just basic stock market stuff, I really got into crypto before I got into any traditional markets, whether it was like FX or options or whatever else.
That's interesting. That is interesting. Man. Okay. Tell us about about that then.
Well, I mean, outside of it's just interesting because I had scholarship money. I was one of those people who got a lot of scholarships because I'm lucky enough to be good at standardized tests. So the government threw cash at me to go to college, and I dumped like $1,000 of that into some stock somebody was telling me about. But that was when I was like a kid. I was like 18 at the time. Outside of that, I didn't invest in anything except for crypto until when 2013 came around. So, I mean, it's I don't know. When I first got started, it was more of a buy and hold kind of thing because, I mean, as you know, crypto and especially just Bitcoin itself was brand new at the time. And I was coming at it from kind of a free speech kind of thing. I thought, well, this takes away all the middlemen to the whole process of sending money from point A to point B. And I knew as soon as I learned about Bitcoin that there was going to be a place for it in the economy eventually.
Yep. So this is and again, I love talking with individuals like you who've seen at least that 7 years of crypto, and it helps my audience, my viewers, because I would say a majority of them are, at this point, they're kind of seasoned as well. But a lot of people got in 2017 and 16.
Sure.
I want you to talk to the audience and just explain to them, because I'm always preaching this to my audience. Like, look, crypto, when I got into it, it was a very heavy libertarian centric community.
Yes.
A very what's another word? Anti-bank,
anti-establishment, kind of like skeptical, I guess, of the powers that be, the middlemen,
But the narrative has changed. And so, like, back then, though, Malcolm, what was Bitcoin looked at? Was it looked at as a form of money, or was it looked at as a form of storage of wealth? More so, I know back then it was both, but which one was a majority of the, like, what was the zeitgeist of the
it
overall...
was viewed as money. It was absolutely viewed as money. And I think that the Bitcoin Cash people get pooped on a little bit for this, but I mean, they have a point, which is that, Bitcoin was always meant to be fungible, like cash. And I do think that's one of the major failings right now of Bitcoin itself, like BTC. I think that the whole gold narrative, like the digital gold thing, it was always present, but it's taken over. Right. But that's not to say that you can still use Bitcoin though. Like, you can still buy stuff with it directly on, say, Overstock.
Sure. But like you said, you bring up a great point. The pendulum has swung. Has swung over to the now. It's pushing the narrative. The community is pushing its gold, and it is, and I think it is better than gold in many aspects. Not saying that at all, but what I want people to understand is that it wasn't always that. It was being pushed as a means to circumvent the banking system as a peer-to-peer cash system, right? And why do you think we've gotten away from that? Was that on purpose? Do you think that there was some nefarious activities going on behind the scene, Blockstream, XYZ? Kind of give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's a whole can of worms. I mean, is there something nefarious going on behind the scenes? I don't know. Are people involved? Then because it's like there's always going to be these politics behind the scenes of one group of people wants this and another group wants this. And I mean, Blockstream is just this group of people that, probably has a little more power than they should when it comes to saying what Bitcoin is. But with that said, I mean, that I definitely don't want to trust the Craig Wrights of the world, who I think honestly is a con man personally. So it's just like, do I think that with regards to the block size debate and whatnot, which is really what this is about, like how should Bitcoin scale? I mean, in a perfect world, you would be able to do all your transactions on chain, and you would not have a problem with buying a coffee with Bitcoin. That's basically impossible right now. And so it's funny because if you look at the old documentation, if you go to if you go in the Wayback Machine and you look at things that were on bitcoin.org or whatever back in 2015, 2013, whatever, you'll see things that it's like, you can send this stuff like fast and basically for free and any amount that you want. And that's basically not true anymore. And I don't want to lie to people and let them know, the wrong thing. Like, it is true if you're sending a certain amount, but you cannot send microtransactions with Bitcoin. You just can't do it. And have it be fast. Maybe with certain things like the Lightning Network, and I guess they're working on Liquid now and whatnot, but on chain, not going to happen. And that's not to say that it's like all of the benefits of Bitcoin are gone. There's still so many. The fact that a bank can't tell me what to do, PayPal can't tell me what to do, Stripe can't tell me what to do. All of these this handful of financial corporations that control all the transactions you make in the world, the credit card corporations, they say what business you can and can't have. Those people have no say. You can send me $100 worth of Bitcoin and they can't stop you. It's just the microtransaction thing is an issue. And I'm forced to agree. It did change over time. And I think you asked me, like, why did that change? I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're ever really going to be privy to the stuff that went on behind the scenes as to, like, was there a nefarious reason for them trying to, I've heard it described as crippling the protocol, keeping the block size down. I don't know. I honestly, I'm still, after all these years, I'm still kind of undecided on why that happened,
Yeah, same here.
But there is an alternative. There's Bitcoin Cash now, so.
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of alternatives. Bitcoin Cash should be included in that group.
Sure.
But it's great that I'm talking with a person, guys, that it has a technical background. He can understand and assess things, and I think, to me, it's not to toot your horn, not to toot my horn, but for an individual to grasp onto the concept of Bitcoin at the time you did, 2013. Lets me know you are a forward thinker, and you think on a very a different level than most, right? What intrigued you with Bitcoin then, and what intrigues you with Bitcoin now?
Well, a lot of it is the same stuff. Like I was saying, the anything that removes middlemen, and I think there's actually a word for this, disintermediation or something like that, where it's like disintermediation. And what you've got is, almost the entirety of our financial world right now, the traditional financial world, it's built up on what I would call parasitic middlemen taking their cut of what's, the money that's going from point A to point B, whether that's a bank or whether that's a money services business like PayPal or Stripe or whatever, or maybe even like a social media type thing. Like I would say that Patreon, for instance, is kind of somewhere in between money services business and social media company. But you have these people who, they have two kinds of power. Like, one, they have the power to take a chunk of any money that goes from point A to point B, and two, they have the power to censor you. So, and it's like they could have the power to, well, I don't like your politics. They don't like your politics, and so I'm not going to let you have a business. And it's not that somebody broke a law. It's that the dude who happens to own Patreon, PayPal, whatever, just didn't like what you had to say, or the credit card corporations like MasterCard, Visa didn't like what you've had to say. And this has happened time and again. People, it's called deplatforming or financial deplatforming in the case of money, where you just lose your whole career or your ability to have a livelihood because somebody didn't like what you had to say.
And the thing that attracted London Real, right? London Real just went through that.
Oh, really? Actually, I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I want to look that up though later at some point. But anyway, I mean, it's like that was the number one thing that first attracted me to it. But I mean, there are many aspects too. It's like there's layers to it, because there's also the just the basic idea of good money versus bad money. And I'm sure you're familiar with those terms. Some people might not be, where it's you've got money that is inherently inflationary versus money that's not. And our whole financial world, the U.S. dollar. One of the funniest things I hear all the time about Bitcoin is, well, what's based on nothing, and then you kind of want to turn it around and say, well, okay, what's the U.S. dollar based on? It's literally called fiat, which means let it be, which means it's not based on a goddamn thing.
Exactly.
It's just whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, let it be. Oh, yeah. It's based on what I would call farts and unicorn dreams. It's meaningless. It's a piece of pay. It's cotton.
Unfortunately, though, Malcolm, you asked that question to a wide majority of America today, and guess what? They're still going to say the dollar is backed by gold. It surprises me, man, that still is a response that I get from people.
Low information is what that is.
Man, that's crazy. So cool. No, that definitely makes sense. Let's take a trip down memory lane. The old days of Bitcoin, when CoinMarketCap was one page, maybe had 50 coins on there. I know you remember those days when Telegraph had it didn't have different sections under it. It just had like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. Those were the different sections of news that you could kind of drop down and check out. What's your take on some of the old school coins like Namecoin and Primecoin and all those coins? I call it altcoin 1.0.
Sure.
Do you see us going through that cycle, or have we gone? Are we through that altcoin 2.0 wave where a lot of those coins are going to be dead and buried and never to be seen again? What's your take on altcoins and that whole paradigm?
Well, altcoins are kind of funny. This is something I actually write about on rosecrypto.com, my site. I wrote about, I mean, I haven't added any articles to that in a while, but what I used to talk about pretty regularly was different altcoins and sort of the vision for their projects. And I mean, the situation is this. During 2017, 2018, when you had the huge bull market happening with Bitcoin and everything was going up, people got really hyped about, I think you called them altcoins 2.0. Back in, altcoins 1.0 with like Namecoin and whatnot. I mean, you also kind of saw a little bit of a, hey, I can get rich quick off of this. Like, hey, I can, I didn't get in time for Bitcoin, so now I've got to buy this other thing, and I'm going to get so goddamn rich off of, whatever coin.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Malcolm. That was it. That was it. That was the only reason we were buying altcoins back then. Because we kind of missed, we thought we missed the boat buying Bitcoin at, I think I bought like $89, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah. And it felt like it was too late.
It did. Oh, hindsight, man. Hindsight's so 2020.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, man. So yeah, you're right. Yeah. We did. Do you think that's the case now with these
for the most part, yeah.
Nowadays? Okay.
I think for the most part, I don't think that. I mean, let's be honest. What people call them, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the phrase "shit coins" is what people call them, and they're right. I would say 90, maybe even 99% of the time, they're right. Most of these coins are going to disappear, and I hear this phrase. What do they call it? Altcoin season. A lot where people are like, oh, altcoin season's going to come back. Well, all these heavy bags that I'm holding, they're gonna get so light because I'm gonna, that's going to be worth so much money one day soon. And what they don't realize is, I honestly, my take is that the cycle works like you're going to have all these altcoins that show up. You're going to have all this hype for these projects. And then you're going to have people realize that the projects are going nowhere. And then instead of those projects magically coming back in a few years when Bitcoin starts to rise, most of those projects are just going to disappear in the wind. And then new ones are going to show up. And then the hype cycle starts all over again. And it's just a bunch of people who think, I'm going to make money fast. And that's not to say that that's every single altcoin. I have very, very good things to say about coins like, Monero, because I think that privacy is one of the most important aspects of crypto. And in my opinion, Monero probably does it best. But if you're talking about just like some dude makes an ERC20 token and writes some BS white paper about it and pretends that he's going to build some kind of platform for it. Maybe he even makes a demo and nobody uses it. That's going to disappear in a day. That's going away, and I promise you it's not coming back up. And that describes, I mean, would you say that describes most altcoins, that scenario I just gave?
Absolutely. But on top of that, let's talk about the technical side of the altcoin community. And I think we can, have this conversation. Like I said, guys, this is my first time talking with Malcolm. And I don't know what his answer is going to be to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there, from a technical standpoint, Malcolm, I'm not a great fan of Ethereum because I'm seeing limitations on computational boundaries. I think the way they configured and built Ethereum is not scalable. I know they're going through 2.0 right now, trying to go from proof of work to stake. They're having issues, and I said that this is going to be a very huge task for them to do this. What is your thought on Ethereum, and kind of give the audience, not financial advice, but from a technical, because you are technical as well, people should listen to people like you, because you have that other side of it there. They're not able to really see if they're not seeking that information. What is your thought on Ethereum?
Well, I mean, I guess number one, the first thing I'd want to say is that I think Vitalik Buterin, the Ethereum guy, I think he's built up a little bit of a cult of personality, and I think that whenever you have that, it's really dangerous because then people stop thinking straight about, is this a good investment? Is this project actually doing what it says it's going to do? Is it capable of doing that at some point down the line? It becomes less about these sort of logical conclusions and more about, well, I'm on this team now. I'm Team Vitalik. And I don't know if I want to blame Vitalik for that. He's a public figure. That's going to happen whether you like it or not. But it is something to keep in mind. Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, as far as like, is Ethereum going to stick around for a long time? Are they going to be able to actually, scale everything properly with Ethereum 2.0 and whatnot? All I have to say is that I guess, if you're familiar with CryptoKitties, which I'm sure you are, a simple game destroyed their network. It's a little game about kittens. CryptoKitties managed to make the Ethereum network basically unusable. I think gas prices for sending transactions were up to, record levels when that was
$dollars or something crazy. 100.
It was insane.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I actually don't think, one of the things I think about Ethereum is it's a similar opinion to what I have about Bitcoin, where it's like, despite all of Bitcoin's flaws, and there are some, I'm not a fanboy. I will happily talk about Bitcoin's flaws. Despite that, they've got the first mover advantage, man. And that is psychologically huge. And they're not necessarily stagnant is the thing. They have the ability to improve over time. They have a community built up. This stuff is not really from a technical level. It's not like a technical thing. It's just a human psych thing, and it shouldn't be discounted. And as far as Ethereum goes, I mean, it's important to note that all of those little ERC20 tokens that later sometimes jump off of Ethereum's blockchain and make their own coin, some of those are actually successful. Some of those are actually legitimate projects, I assume. And so the thing is that, like, as long as people are using Ethereum for that, I think it's going to have some success in the future. Personally, I'm not a big Ethereum holder though.
Do you think it can scale to like, how difficult do you see it scaling from 1.0 to and proof of work to proof of stake? I always make the comparison of them going from proof of work to proof of stake is like trying to change out a transmission while the engine is running.
While the engine is running. Yeah, that's good luck to them. I guess is what I would say. I mean, the problem with scaling is, here's the unpleasant truth, is that blockchains in general don't scale well. They just don't.
You're right.
And that's just, what a blockchain is particularly good at is being resistant to censorship, okay, and being immutable and being decentralized, and basically saying F you to the single parties that would say, well, no, I'm going to change this transaction. I didn't like this transaction. I'm going to go into the past and I'm going to alter it. Blockchains are very good at resisting that kind of thing. Blockchains are not particularly good at doing things quickly. They're not particularly good at, doing 1 billion transactions per second, And if you wanted to do something like that, have you heard of IOTA, or do you know what a DAG is?
Of course, yep, DAGs. And the thing is, I was going to ask you about HBAR. That's one that I'm really interested in. That seems to have some promise, but as you stated, most blockchains are really designed to be censorship resistant, and when you look to scale it, you compromise on decentralization. It's not a black and white thing like we've made it. It's more of a gradient scale. But I like HBAR. I've heard of, you said IOTA, of course, and then also one of the projects I big up a lot, man, is EOS and the whole DPoS algorithm. EOS, Telos. I like Telos a lot. Sure. So yeah, I hear you on that, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you ever seen one of those graphs that says it's like one of those three-way Venn diagrams, and in one corner there's good, and then in the other there's fast, and in the other there's cheap.
Yep.
It's kind of a similar thing to blockchains. It's like you can have your security, but and you can have the thing be fast. You maybe can't have, the best levels of both of those aspects, at the same time.
You're right.
And maybe some of those technologies that you mentioned, maybe instead of a blockchain, you use a DAG, and maybe that gets to some level that it scales better. Because, I mean, I don't know how much you want to get into the technicals of that, but the IOTA guys, as far as I know, it's still basically centralized,
It is.
And maybe sometime down the line, they're talking about, well, okay, at some point we're going to make this not centralized, and then let the DAG actually do its job. But yeah, I think that stuff is way down the line. And I don't, once a crypto starts being used by a certain critical mass of people, I think I don't know of a single one in existence right now that would not have scaling issues.
They would almost all lock up at this point.
Yeah.
They will
Right.
almost, so it kind of lets you
Yeah.
know where we are from that standpoint of maturity in this industry.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
put the cart before the horse.
Well, that just gave me, reminded me of something I wanted to say. I mean, maybe you asked me earlier. You opened up this interview, I think, with, you mentioned that Bitcoin. Why did we go to the point of it's digital gold? It's not cash. It's a store of value. It's not cash. I have to wonder if maybe they saw the writing on the wall. And these are math guys. These are computer science guys. I have to wonder if they just saw and they kind of looked to the future and said, "We can't solve this goddamn problem. Let's just change the narrative."
Very possible. Very possible. But my whole thing, man, is and you kind of know this. You talked about modularity and having a module system, right? And part of that is having, to me, have the core level 0 protocol in your network, if you want to call it. Bitcoin is a network. So
Sure.
at ground zero, I mean, at least have it robust enough to be able to scale a little bit, and then you can layer on top of that. But I don't know what happened, when, where, and how, but things got crossed, man, and we haven't gone, to me, in the right direction since that point. I don't even know when that was, but at this point, I don't know. Kind of give us your feedback on Lightning Network. I'm not a huge fan of that one either. It seems to be something that centralizes the whole operation.
Yes. Well, it's like I like to call that centralized decentralization, because you've got like this one person, I guess, who controls the what do they call it? Do they call it a Lightning node? I forget the terminology they use, but yeah, I mean, you've got sort of a server controlling that. I've actually I built an app with Lightning Network. It's not online anymore, but it was called I think it was called Lightning Pixels. Okay. And I don't know if you've heard. Do you remember that thing Reddit did a while back? I honestly forget what it was called, but it was like a canvas that everybody could draw on. Yeah. And you could like put pixels down and whatnot, and there's various sites like this as well.
Yeah,
and
EOS
just kind of because
something like that. I think it's called Pixios. Is one project on EOS doing something like that. But I remember the Bitcoin one. I do.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I wanted to teach myself about Lightning Network and how to actually run an app that accepts Lightning, as a developer. So I just made a clone of one of those Pixel programs where anybody could interact with it, and then I attached my own little home-built sort of payment processor program that interacted with Lightning. And I don't think I ever actually turned it on for anything other than testnet, because it's not like it was going to make money. But it was an interesting experience because it was, well, the documentation was really bad for getting everything set up. And I remember I actually submitted a PR to fix some of the stuff in the documentation, and it was just kind of ignored. So I don't know how much those people care about developing Lightning Network or how. I mean, I don't know. I'm very suspicious. I think that that's natural with the Bitcoin, especially old school Bitcoin enthusiasts. I'm very skeptical, I guess is the right word, of anybody who stands to gain a lot of money off of developing. Yeah, and control. And control is money, is the thing. It's both. It's one and the same. Yeah, you get control, you get the money, you get control, you get control, you get the money. Right. And yeah, I mean, once everybody and their brother, I mean, of course you would love to have, some amount of control over the Bitcoin network, because you're set for life at that point. Very few people would say no to that opportunity, Yeah, right. So I am a little skeptical, I'll admit.
Yeah. At this point, what would you tell our audience as far as projects you're in blockchains you're on the lookout for? I know you mentioned IOTA. What other projects should viewers take a look at, in your opinion? Because from a technical guy, like I like to get this advice from people who have that technical eye.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's not financial advice, but my own personal interests are really aligned with it's a very narrow subset of things. Like, number one is privacy. John McAfee, he's a crazy drug addict guy, but he has a few interesting things to say. He's a big hype man, and he talks about privacy coins a lot. And he's actually right about it. Is that, like, there will always be a place for privacy coins. That's actually it's a dark piece of crypto's history. But if you look at things like the Silk Road, that's where a lot of the hype first started to build up, because it was a way to do transactions that were maybe a little less than legal. But of course, there's plenty of legal reasons to want privacy in your financial matters.
Absolutely.
I don't want everybody knowing what I buy, and I don't break the law, but I don't want anybody knowing all my purchases. It's
Exactly.
it's my business. So there will always be a place for privacy coins. So number one in my book, maybe not number one, but pretty high up there, is looking for coins that are best of breed, so to speak, of what actually does privacy the best. In my opinion, and that may change over time, but my current opinion is Monero does that. But there are others like, Zcash and whatnot. There's actually quite a few at this point, and there's been there's been proposals to add privacy features to Bitcoin itself. So it's something to look out for in the future. So some of the things that I'm holding right now outside of Bitcoin, I actually hold some Binance coin and some KuCoin shares. And those, the reason,
but yeah, I have Binance.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do is, for me, I look at coins. What do I think is more likely than not, to survive any kind of storm, so to speak. Any kind of bear market, and then get past that into the long term. And for me, that has less to do with technicals, because the thing is, I don't care how smart you are. It's very easy to get hoodwinked by these. You read a white paper, you get hyped up, and you think, wow, this is going to be great. And it may even be a great idea, even from a technical, standpoint. Like, for example, IOTA. If you start learning about directed acyclical graphs, and you think, well, wow, this could be a really good scaling solution. I don't care if it's a good solution or not. The project could very easily go belly up. Some of the people who work with IOTA are totally, out of their mind. If you look at their subreddit and whatnot, it's like very easy to throw a project away, even if it's a good idea. So what I'm a little more interested in is, for example, those two exchange coins, are these exchanges doing a good job? How have they handled crises in the past? Like Binance got hacked, and it's not like Mt. Gox. No user got punished.
Yeah.
No user got punished for that hack. Seifu, yeah. The Seifu fund. So you look at things like that, and I think, well, yeah, they're doing the right thing. They're generally following best practices. They've navigated the whole, honestly draconian American, sort of SEC, just system, by making an American platform specifically for Americans, which a lot of people didn't like, but it was the right choice, in my opinion, because they got so big. They got so big that they had to be they had to play that game, and they're actually doing it. And I think the alternative was that they were going to go out of business, or have a very limited business going forward. So that's one of the reasons I hold some Binance coin, and that I think that's a good idea to at least look into. And then, it's like other exchange coins. Most of them are probably nonsense, but it's just those two, KuCoin and Binance, I have a good impression of.
Yeah,
but then as far as
Binance is a good one, and I hold Binance as well, because as you stated earlier, follow the money. Money is power, or control, right? And CZ has done a great job of pretty much cornering the market. In many aspects, and his ecosystem is doing very well. They're growing. They just bought
Cointelegraph.
They just bought CoinMarketCap.
Or CoinMarketCap, I meant to say.
And when I see stuff like that, I'm like, okay, they, like you said, they're going to be around whether it's up or down.
Right.
And I think that's a great one for sure.
Yeah.
So what? Talk to us about Turing complete. And non-Turing complete systems, because kind of give us some understanding about that, so people understand, Bitcoin and some of the altcoins and how they're Turing complete and some aren't, and what are your thoughts on that and going forward? Because like Bitcoin is essentially not Turing complete, right? But Ethereum is. So do you see like blockchain being bigger than the cryptocurrency side of things, or what?
Okay, I see what you're getting at.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, That's a meme that you hear an awful lot, not just like in the media whenever they decide to cover crypto, but also governments like, China's government actually came out and said something. Well, no, we like blockchain. We don't care about Bitcoin, which is which. And I think that's kind of it's a little bit of a misunderstanding, I think, because yeah, they are two separate things, but I think it's very hard to divorce them in the minds of your average person. I mean, when your average person thinks about Bitcoin, they don't really grok the difference between that and blockchain, the underlying technology.
Should they?
And the other, should they? Well, it may be, but I don't think it's very likely that they ever will. It's just it's a complicated thing. Honestly, it seems simple. Well, this is one of the reasons I started my website, actually. This kind of conversation these topics seem super simple to me and you because we've been doing it for like 8 years. But your average person looks at this and they say, well, hey, Jack, how do I open PDF? You know what I mean? Like, you see that? I don't know if you saw that picture, but it's, but really, I mean, with regards to the blockchain, I mean, it's clearly obvious that it's almost become this hype thing that's bigger than what it actually is, because you had, on one hand, you had companies just like adding blockchain to their name, Long Island Blockchain Iced Tea. Oh, look, my company's worth more money now. And then on the other hand, you had people who were making projects that were blockchain oriented, that used a blockchain for this and that, and it had no business being used in that project, because what you've basically got is a shitty database. You've got a really slow database, and it's great for some things, but it's really bad for others. So I mean, I don't know.
That's
I'm personally.
You bring up a good point, because I see, back in 2017, 18, when the hype around blockchain, the buzzword was blockchain, right? And then you saw a lot of companies kind of take some of these open source blockchains like Ethereum, which has its limitations when scaled publicly, but they would take the code and make their own, and you got Hyperledger, and they're making all of these modifications to them to suit themselves. And at the end of the day, I started wondering, because when the whole blockchain thing really got big, I started to assess the situation and really think to myself, like, hey, are companies really going to use a public blockchain, or will they ultimately just use a private blockchain for
It'll be private.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So where does that leave public blockchains at the end of the day? Like, we thought that, GM and all these Fortune 500 companies were going to use Ethereum or use EOS, or where does that leave that landscape if those companies aren't going to be the ones using it? Is it power in numbers? Can we have it where power in many people using public blockchains?
Sure.
Or no?
Well, actually, you bring that up. Ripple's a great example of that, where it's like it's just the banks thing, and people were like, oh, I'm going to buy Ripple and I'm going to make $1 million. Okay, try.
Right.
But the thing is that that's a really great comment. I mean, can blockchain technology, can these coins, like just Bitcoin itself, can they survive without the mainstream picking up on it and actually doing things on the chain? You have a lot of people that are, well, I'm going to make my own ERC20 token. It's going to live on the Ethereum blockchain, and my project's going to be based around it. But I mean, there's really not that many mainstream companies that are taking that task on.
And I almost had that same epiphany, that same aha moment that probably you and I both experienced with Bitcoin in the early days, going from that peer-to-peer cash until one day we finally said, okay, wait a minute, this is going in the not necessarily wrong direction, but it's going in a different direction than what we thought it would. Right. It was. And so we had that with Bitcoin, going from money to more so a store of wealth. I'm now seeing and feeling like I had that feeling and that thought back in, I would say, late 2018. I said, wait a minute, I'm seeing the trend. We thought these public blockchains were going to be the next wave and everyone's going to use them, from Samsung to Pepsi, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It really doesn't.
Well, I think that a number of companies, there were some big companies that sort of hand waved it and were like, oh yeah, we're sort of getting involved in blockchain, this and that. And I think it was more used as a PR move than any actual interest in the technology.
Me too.
Because these companies are, vampiric bloodsuckers. But I'll give you an example actually. Jack Dorsey from Twitter, he runs Square as well.
Yep.
And he talks a real good game, but I really don't think he has that much interest in crypto. I really think that it's like, when did he first start talking about, I did an article on this actually, where Square started accepting Bitcoin, and there were a bunch of really goofy issues with it. I need to check my own writing to make sure that I'm not getting this wrong, but I believe that you could put crypto into, you couldn't put crypto into it.
You couldn't take it out.
You had to buy it. You could. I don't even know if you could take it out. I think you had to. No, you could take it out, but you couldn't put it in. Or it was one of the two. Basically, it made no sense. And it was
right.
And it was just them positioning themselves as a sort of middleman. But also, he set it up. I want to say it was like right before Christmas. So it was like like a holiday season, PR move is how I saw it. And that's fine. I mean, ultimately, I think that's good for cryptocurrencies. But if you think that major companies are going to, I mean, you have to pay attention and realize that like crypto is a competitor to these people, traditional financial institutions,
really
whether it's a bank, whether it's even social media, whether it's like Patreon, whether it's whatever. Crypto is anathema to these people at the end of the day because it removes power from them, whether that's the power to suppress speech or it's the power to suppress someone's financial transactions, whatever. They're the enemy, and it's just the way it is. And they're not going to, unless they're fools, they're not going to fund their own demise. I've always seen crypto as kind of a hedge against the traditional financial world or even the traditional world of the internet, what the internet has become, and the people who control it. And on the sort of 6 or 7 West Coast companies that control everything on the internet, it's a hedge against all of that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Definitely. And speaking of hedge, I've got on the screen the Business Insider article about the House Democrats introducing a plan to pay Americans $2,000 a month until the recovery of the economy from the COVID-19. Man, this is I can't believe we're here. I really cannot believe we are at this point where they're going to pay everyone over the age of 16 $2,000 a month until and listen to this, is the part that just cracks me up. They're going to pay them until the unemployment rate gets back below where it was prior to this.
Yeah.
That's going to take 2-3 years. 4 or 5.
Yeah, I guess money grows on trees, man.
Oh my God.
I have to wonder, how do you think Andrew Yang feels right now reading this stuff?
Man, he should have stayed in the race. He should have stayed in the race.
Yeah,
he would have won.
He'd be president by now. They would have just canceled the election. They would have. These are the ideas, because this is double what he was talking about, right? He wanted $1,000 a month.
1,000. Yep.
I don't know. I mean, to be fair, this is basically a political stunt because, I mean, what you've got, I looked these people up when you sent me this article earlier. Ro Khanna, Tim Ryan, they're both Democrats, and it's not going to pass. It's not a bipartisan bill.
This is the thing, though, man. I didn't think, I lean personally more toward the right anyway, just because I'm a business owner. I just do. I just naturally lean more to the right. And I'm in the same boat. I'm kind of, am I shocked? I don't know. Both parties can be a hot mess and have issues, but I'm a little shocked at how socialist centric we've become from even the right side, from the Republicans.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean,
tell me a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring that up because like I was making a joke the other day when Trump and whatnot were still basically fighting with Pelosi over trying to get the stimulus checks out and trying to get the original, here's your money bill passed. It was basically, the Democrats were trying to add a bunch of crap to that bill and saying no to it. And I thought it was really amusing that, you've got a man who is often referred to as a literal Nazi by the left, Donald Trump. Obviously, I don't agree with that, but that's what's said. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that gets bandied around. And the irony, it's like the ultimate irony is that, you know, he's looking like he's more left
Yep.
in a sense than the
Yep.
people who were trying to stop the bill, who are Democrats.
This is how you know we're in the end. We're at the end. This is the
It's
end.
the end times, man.
It's the end time. There's no way. This is the end, bro. Like when you have
Surfing
Donald
the
Trump,
Kali Yuga over here.
yeah, when you have Donald Trump trying urgently to get these, like, not just, I'm using him as a figurative, figuratively speaking, but
Sure.
the ultimate capitalist, right?
Yeah, the human embodiment of the 80s, just snorting coke and making money.
Exactly. When you got him trying to get thousands of dollars to individuals, it just lets me know, man, how bad this thing really is. How bad this thing really is.
People are scared. That's the bottom line is, and I promise you that more people are gonna, I mean, this virus is scary. There's no question about it, and it's gonna kill people, but I bet you in the end, more people are gonna die from just the fearful reactions, the thoughtless kind of, we've got to do something about this right now. Doesn't matter what it is. Got to do something. You know, it's like a stampede, like a human stampede. It's a thing that really happens. You know, there's too many people in one place. People get scared, and you'll literally have human beings running over other human beings until they die. You know, and that's what's happening right now. I think only on kind of a metaphorical level, where it's just everybody is just reacting. They're not thinking, they're just reacting. And it's like, we got to give money, we got to print more money, you know? Like, yeah, have you seen the GIFs of the Fed guy rolling the money printer and it's going burr and then it explodes? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
No. Yeah, it's like, and there's a little chart at the top left of, you know, the green candle kind of trying to spike up as he turns the money printer. And the money's just going everywhere. That's what's, you know, I mean, I don't know. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. But you know what it does though, Malcolm, it exposes how much of a house of cards this whole system has been so far. We've printed, if you can compare us to other countries, Malcolm, we've printed more stimulus money than any other country.
Yeah.
By I would say disproportionately more than in GDP, if you want to put it in that way, right? Of course, we would print more money because we have
because we can.
We can, and we have the biggest economy. But I'm saying proportionately, it's more by many times. So that lets us know that this economy is not as strong as the politicians on both sides of the aisle they've been putting on that it has been. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've heard phrases bandied around like, and this is a direct quote, infinite money. You know, from, I think it was somebody in the Fed who basically said, yeah, you just keep doing this indefinitely, you know, and there's got to be a side effect to that at some point down the line.
Neil Kashkari has said that. I think there's a few people, absolutely, and like I said, man, who would have thought we would be at this point where they're just throwing around, we can just basically a modern, it's called an MMT, right? The whole modern monetary policy, whatever they call it, right? So it's
a shell game. It's a shell game.
Yeah. So how does crypto play into that? Do you think it is a hedge? This is the third kind of shock for me in this whole crypto experience since I've been in it, is to see because we haven't had a true financial crisis since 2008. And Bitcoin came just right after. So we haven't had that test, and we kind of saw that happen a few months ago, and Bitcoin and cryptos didn't hold up to its safe haven.
Well, I mean, but then it came right back up though. It came right back up there to some degree. I mean, I think that what you saw there was pure panic on the part of these sort of garage band hedge funds who had, you know, the few people who had the few non-retail investors who had gotten into crypto. That was them getting the hell out, because everybody was panicking and saying, I need cash right now. I need cash right now. The theory that I've read and that I kind of agree with is that crypto is not, you know, like most things, crypto is not what you get right when the crisis starts. You know, it's what people slowly filter back into when they no longer, you know, they're ready to not hold cash, but they want to filter into assets that maybe are a little disconnected from the traditional financial system. And that's, you know, historically what you've seen with gold. Even I think right at the beginning of the crash, even gold was down. It's obvious it's up now, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to think that the current policy is not bullish for Bitcoin in the long term when you've got, and this is one of the first things that drew people into crypto, the fact that Bitcoin is deflationary. There's only going to be 21 million of it ever. And cash is as inflationary as you can possibly get without turning your money into Zimbabwe dollars, and it's hard for me to really believe that this is not ultimately, not necessarily in the short term, but ultimately a very good thing for Bitcoin, because it's a demonstration. It's a demonstration of, you use the phrase house of cards. That's the best phrase I've ever heard to describe our entire financial system. I don't want to call it fraudulent, because it is built on things. It's just, if you breathe on those things, they all fall down, and that's just not the case with crypto, where it's like, yeah, the price can be depressed, but you cannot simply say, here's more Bitcoin. I made this out of nowhere. I mean, I suppose if you did like a 51% attack on the network for long enough, you could, but that's hasn't happened, and it won't happen. So
at this point, right.
At this point, yeah, there's too much. People bitch and moan about how much electricity is used in the crypto, in Bitcoin mining. Well, guess why Bitcoin is so secure? Guess why Bitcoin has never had a 51% attack that actually succeeded.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Speaking of 51% attacks and the whole mining thing, we've got the halving coming up next month. Tell me your thoughts on that. I've talked about this on my channel many times before in the past about halvings and giving people my experience with halvings in the past. I think I've gone through 2 now with Bitcoin. Typically, though, we've always seen a run up. Going into halving, we didn't see that this go around. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you see the price is? Not necessarily a particular price, but do you see it stronger after the halving, or what? Kind of give me your thoughts on that.
Well, I never give particular prices, because I think it's these people who make their entire, they try to become an E-celeb because they give out these outrageous numbers, whether they're high or they're low. It's like rolling the bones, basically, and I'm going to divine from my tarot cards.
YouTube. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
And every day it's like, oh, but yesterday you said, or last week it was Bitcoin.
Oh, well, that was before.
Right. I'm just supposed to forget that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the thing is, it works. These people get tons of hits. I'm just like, I respect myself too much to become that, and I suspect you do too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as far as the setup for the halving, I don't. We're in unprecedented times. We're in sort of dark, uncharted waters at this point, because, like you said, this is the first major crisis. And in a sense, you could make the argument that Bitcoin was built for this time. It came out of the financial crisis of 2008, when everybody in the financial world was like basically committing crimes, and only one dude went to jail, and Satoshi, whoever he may be, or whoever the group of people may be, said, hey, we need to make an alternative to this.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting time. And it is a little, I will say, it is probably a little shocking to everybody in crypto that it's like, well, we expected this to be the time for crypto to straight up go to 1 million, and it didn't. Instead, it crashed by 50%, and then came back up. But with regards to the halving itself, I mean, historically, my understanding is that we haven't seen really a huge effect on the market on the day of the halving or something. I think these people think that, like, you're going to see this massive effect the very day that the halving happens, and like, okay, everything's going to be different from this point forward. But historically, it's taken, maybe you can correct me on this, like 6 months to like a year or 2 years for that.
Definitely. It's a lag effect. I don't know if you're familiar with the stock to flow model that a lot of people. I don't follow it too much, but it seems to hold some weight, and it does seem to be on track still.
Sure. Well, every model is accurate until it's not.
That's true.
It's, again, I really do. I picture these people like witch doctors just throwing some bones around and saying, well, that's where the price is going to be. I'm not saying that all TA is nonsense, because I mean, there's some factual, there's some information to it. There's some insight into human psychology and trading inside of these things. But I have seen some takedowns of the stock to flow model. I don't. I'm kind of neutral on it.
Yeah, me
You
too.
you could
Yeah.
you could make the argument that it's inapplicable depending on how you define what the flow is. Um,
Hmm.
there are people who tried to argue that the flow should be considered zero, and as a result, the Bitcoin should be infinity dollars. So I mean, that's
I think
I
that's
don't
a
know.
little extreme there, but oh yeah,
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 a little.
okay.
Well, I think it was. Yeah, well, yeah. I think that was just like rhetoric, but it's just interesting. It's all subjective. All of this stuff is so subjective, and it makes me roll my eyes a little bit. So I like
Yep.
to generally look at. I just kind of look at the big macro picture of, are people going to want some kind of hedge against traditional financial instruments? And my opinion, and I could be wrong, but my opinion is yes. I think that people are going to become. My take on it is that people are going to become way more skeptical of governments after this, at least in the short term. People are going to be panicking even harder than they already have when some of this market stuff really comes to head. And I think that they're going to be looking for assets that are at least partially, ideally, completely decoupled from, all the shell games over in traditional markets. Not to say that crypto has no shell games, but it's a little
No,
less
I hear
layered.
you.
Than,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think personally, man, we're going to be in a lockstep with equities for a while. As you stated, Bitcoin did bounce up, but so did equities,
Yep.
right? It
Yes.
bounced 20
Yep.
something plus percent off the lows, and
Sure.
I think we're going to see lower lows with the equities and consequently lower lows with the cryptos in the short run.
It could
But
happen.
that's the
Sure.
suckers. That's the sucker selling. If you want to call it. It's sucking. It's getting everyone out before the run up, in my opinion. And I think people should not
Weak
just
hands.
try to weak hands. Right. I don't think people should try to time bottoms, man, and just.
Oh, absolutely. Holy shit. That's the worst thing you can do.
It's the worst thing you can do.
That's the worst thing you can do, because what are you, a wizard? You
Right.
How do you know exactly?
No, exactly. I agree.
You got to look in the long term with these things, for sure. I think we're totally on the same page there. It's like, if you're trying to do, and it's like there are people that have success with it, but there's a name for those people, and it's gamblers. They're degenerate gamblers, and it's fine if you want to be a gambler, but don't pretend like you're investing.
Right,
if you're
right.
if you're guessing at bottoms and tops and things. Unless you're insider trading, at which point you're breaking the law. But
win. Yeah,
you'll always win if the game is rigged, I suppose.
Hey, it has been for Wall Street for many years now. So hopefully that can change here soon. Great conversation with you, Malcolm. Thanks for coming on. Were there any final thoughts that you wanted to leave my audience with?
Yeah, just if you're not in crypto right now, just find out about it. I mean, there's no reason not to educate yourself, even if you don't end up buying, because I mean, this is, like it or not, it's not going away. It's been around for 8+ years now, or it's actually more like 12 years now technically. It's well, I guess more like 11. But the point is, it's been around for a while. Bitcoin has been declared dead 1 billion times, billion plus one times.
We've heard it so
and
many
it's still
times.
here. And it's still being used, and I could go to overstock.com right now and buy myself a whole furniture set with Bitcoin and no fiat money if I wanted to. So the fact that that's possible should let you know that this stuff, it exists. It's real. Just learn about it. No reason not to.
Wow, that's good advice. Not financial advice, but just good advice from an OG in this crypto game. Again, Malcolm R., thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to definitely have you come back for another Kicking It session, guys. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and click that bell. We're going to rock out to this Pogo Wizard of May. We out of here, people. Holla!